What's up, everybody? Today I am doing a Monotype challenge for Generation 1. I'm going to be doing a Gym Leaders challenge where I have to defeat each of the games with the Gym Leaders types. So in Gen 1, we're going to start with Brock, so the Rock type. And for the interest of keeping this game as similar, I suppose, as possible, I'm going to keep Geodude as or I'm going to change the game, so Geodude is the starter. I think that it is closest in terms of stats to a starter Pokemon. It has 3-stage evolution, and I'm able to manipulate and force the evolution right around level 37, which is going to allow for me to have access to the Golem, as well as continue that idea, right? So it's right around Charizard's evolution level, which I believe off the top of my head is 36. And so I go here with the Geodude. I swap out Geodude for, I believe, Charizard, which means that my rival always have access to a super effective Pokemon, just to keep this as close as possible to a real run. Now, obviously, Trainer Battle 1 is not going to be an issue, especially given the fact that it doesn't have access yet to a Water-type move, but Trainer Battle 2 is going to be more challenging. I still only have access to the one Pokemon, and if that Sand Attack had landed, which it does there, I lose accuracy stats. Now, this is a problem because right now I only have the one Pokemon. I can't swap out. In retrospect, what I should have done, as I get knocked out, but what I should have done is I should have used an Onix at the beginning and then caught a Geodude in Mount Moon. I think that would have given me a better opportunity and given me at least 2 Pokemon and given me the opportunity to switch out stats, because we're going to see that become a huge problem in this run. Now, I am going to be able to defeat Rival 1, but it does require me to level up my Geodude all the way to level 14. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout, is that because I have the one Pokemon and because I need such high levels, Geodude's going to be really overpowered before I even get access to another Rock type. Now that we've defeated our rival and made our way to Pewter City, we are going to take on Brock to show him who the real Brock is. He's going to send out Geodude, and again, by this point, because I'm level 16, I'm a higher level. Now, I did try Rock Throw there because I was curious. I didn't think it was going to be super or even normal effective, but I don't have an attack that's even normal effective. I'm going to use my defense curls here to match his defenses, and I think to myself, well, fine, if you're going to raise your defense, I'm going to raise my defense, so that way Onix can only do 1 damage to me. And this way, as I fight through, I can burn through the PP of my moves. If I had set this up a little differently, what I probably would have done beforehand is go in with fewer defense curls, and then that way I could run out of attack and use Struggle instead. If you're not familiar, Struggle will do at least 3 damage when they have max defense. Even if it's, so even if they max out their defense, it's going to do 3 damage versus the 1 damage that a Tackle or a Rock Throw is going to do. Rock Throw is also wildly inaccurate, and I'm going to run into a series of just misses here until, of course, he hits Bide, and then, of course, I land the Rock Throw, right? Just preposterous. So Bide is the only thing that can do a ton of damage to me. Luckily, I can heal through that and try and burn through each of my PP. Now, with all the tackles, it's going to take for freaking ever. But this is the thing with Rock, right? You have to whittle it down, whittle it down, whittle it down. I don't get a super effective move against Rock until I get access to Dig after defeating Rival Battle, what is that, 3? Yeah, Rival Battle 3, going through the Nugget Bridge, getting all the way to Bill. I can skip over Misty and get access to Dig, but until then, I don't really have very effective move pool. Rock Throw, like I said, is wildly inaccurate, and this shows just how bad not having 100 accuracy on a move is in Generation 1. I land 2, I think, of the total Rock Throws that I put, no, 3, sorry. 3 of my total Rock Throws. Now I'm out of attacks, and so now we go to Defense Curl. This is where, if I had realized this was going to be an issue, I thought Rock Throw was going to be neutral, to be honest, going into the battle, and that one's kind of on me. What I didn't realize is because these are multi-type Pokemon, it's not that Rock isn't effective against rock. The issue becomes the ground typing, I believe. I've always gotten rock and ground mixed up, but either way, this doesn't really work, and so we go with struggle. Struggle's not very effective. I get hit with recoil, but it's still, oh, I guess it doesn't do 3, it only does the 1. But either way, I'm still able to put enough damage in to defeat Brock and earn myself the Boulder Badge and prove who the real Brock is. At this point, I also realized I mixed up Rock Tunnel and Mount Moon, so in my head, I was like, oh, I can go get Onix now. Nope, I still have quite some time to go. Even though I can't quite get Onix yet, I can pick up what will in future be one of my effective Pokemon, and that's going to be the Dome Fossil, which I'm going to turn into Kabuto and then Kabutops. The reason I go for this is Kabutops is a little bit of a stronger attacker, and I do feel that Kabutops will be a little bit more effective in my run than an Omanite would end up being. They are the same typing, so I'm really not losing access to anything. I can still use Surf. I just feel like Slash ends up being a better move, and I get a little bit higher quality attack out of Kabutops, and so that's going to be the route that I take. Once I earn access to Cut, I'll be able to get myself Aerodactyl as well, but again, I can't use those Pokemon until I get to roughly the 7th gym. Now we're on to rival battle number 3, and the big thing here is making sure that I don't get sand attacked, and we're in trouble. So Rock Throw already doesn't hit very well. Sand Attack is going to do an absolute number on me before I can knock out Pidgeotto. So right now I'm going to use Defense Curl, which allows me to use the Badge Boost effect. Use it 3 times to maximize the Badge Boost, and then try to land a Tackle. Tackle has 100 accuracy, so being unable to land a Tackle just shows you how strong that is. And again, if I had 2 Pokemon here, we wouldn't have a problem. I do, however, get crazy lucky, and I managed to hit both Tackles on the Squirtle, 2-shot, keep my Badge Boost in effect by not leveling up until after the battle, and I'm able to defeat and evolve into Graveler. Now, because I have no shot at Misty, I decide that I'm going to go to the SS Anne and clear those battles and get access to Body Slam, because that is a big boost to my attack. And so my hope here is that I'm going to be able to use Body Slam. Now, I do have access to Dig as well. I set up the Badge Boost on Kadabra because, oh, I didn't realize it would learn Confusion. Okay, but still doesn't do too much damage, but this maxes my attack. And I'm able to Body Slam my way through, keep my Badge Boost, and level up at the end of the battle again. So now Rival 4 is defeated. By this point, I still only have access to the 1 Pokemon, and I need to defeat Misty in order to get access to... well, I have Cut, but I can't use it outside of battle. I need to have access to Cut in order for me to go get to Rock Tunnel, which would again give me an Onix. But this is going to be my biggest challenge. So I'm going to get one-shot repeatedly by the Starmie. Now, Staryu is not a problem because I have access to Body Slam. That'll be fine, but I can't set up Badge Boosts, which is a problem. Right? I need to be able to survive, but even Staryu with Water Gun is able to do significant damage to me, and I can't have any damage on me going into the battle with Starmie. Effectively, what I'm hoping for is that Water Gun doesn't crit, and that she doesn't use Bubble Beam. So Water Gun is significantly weaker than Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam is an automatic one-hit KO. Or Misty will occasionally use an X Defend. Even if Misty uses an X Defend, Body Slam still does so much damage with the huge attack of Graveler that I can probably still one-shot through. So my hope here is that Misty stops getting all these damn crits, and right there, boom. And funny enough, I get a critical hit. I feel like that's justice with how many times I lost to Misty, and so now we've finally obtained badge number 2, and we can actually get access to our second Pokemon. Before doing that, though, I am going to defeat Lieutenant Surge just so that I don't forget and have to come back later. This is something that if I started going through the Rock Tunnel, got all the way through, and then went into Celadon, I would completely forget that I hadn't defeated Viridian. Plus, all it really is with Graveler is a couple of digs. Right? He can't do barely any damage to me, and Dig just wipes his whole team. So easy peasy, I get through that without an issue. And now Now we're going to get the second Pokemon for sure. So I was lucky enough to catch it at full health because I had to. If I tried to do any damage to him, I was going to do way too much. So I am able to catch Onix, and now I have access to 2 Pokemon. But one thing that really surprised me in this run is how much Onix kind of sucks in Gen 1. I thought he was going to do a lot more damage than he was, or take more damage, but honestly, he's just not that good. Making my way into Celadon, I make sure to stop off at the rooftop to pick up a Soda Pop to give to this girl on the roof in exchange for the Rock Slide TM. Now, Rock Slide is going to be significantly better than Rock Throw and is going to give my Graveler a more consistent and more accurate damage threat over time. Now that I have a more consistent move pool, I need to defeat Team Rocket to get access to the Sylph Scopes that I continue along with my journey. Now, one thing that I think is really funny about Onix, even though I don't really use him too much, is that you can use Bind, and in Generation 1, Bind is super toxic. It stays on a Pokemon the entire time until the move is up and they don't get to attack. So it's not just that it deals damage. So my plan with Onix was to use the move Toxic combined with Wrap to never let them move and to poison them consistently each turn. The problem is he's just a little too weak for that. Making our way back to Lavender Town and Pokemon Tower, we still have our rival battle in place. Now with the Pidgeotto, I can use Rock Throw and one-shot, so now I don't even have to worry about Sand Attack, especially with 2 Pokemon, because I can just swap them out. Now Rock Throw, still not very accurate, but it is enough for me to take out 2 Pokemon in a row. Now here I'm going to demonstrate just how obnoxious Bind is. Execute doesn't get a single attack off because I am faster than Execute, so Bind will always go first, and it takes up all their turns. So this is a great strategy, something that I could use throughout the entire game. But Onix doesn't always outspeed everyone, and his defenses are really nothing to write home about because he stays as a Gen 1, or as a Type 1 Pokemon. He doesn't evolve. So I get stuck not being able to really use that effectively. Team Rocket and the rest of the tower is a breeze, honestly. I am a little bit over-leveled by the virtue of just having so many trainer battles in Generation 1 and access to only 2 Pokemon so far. But once I'm able to defeat my way through Rocket, I'm able to connect with Mr. Fuji, let him know that the spirit is now at rest. He's going to give me access to the Poke Flute, which allows me to move that Snorlax and move on to Fuchsia City, where I'm going to be able to catch a Rhyhorn. Once I'm able to get to Fuchsia, I beeline straight to the Safari Zone, which is the earliest place that I can get a Rhyhorn. You do have to use bait to try and get it to eat. I'm not sure how effective throwing a rock is, but I was able to spam Pokeballs here because I'm not trying to catch anything else, and eventually catch it after a few. 1 bait and I think like 5 or 6 Pokeballs. And then I have access finally now to a Rhyhorn, which gives me my 3rd effective Pokemon. There are only 2 more that I can get, but I still have to wait until after I clear Blaine. Now that I have picked up that 3rd Pokemon, I'm going to go and get the old Amber, and I actually forgot to record, but this is where you find it. So you go back to Pewter, you have to have Cut to cut down the tree, and then you're able to go into the museum and the guy gives you the old Amber. Now that I have access to 3 Pokemon, and I have the things that I need to get my last 2 Pokemon, I now just have to focus on clearing gyms and getting access to the Fly TM and HM and making sure that I put myself in a position to succeed. That starts with smacking down Erica, which is going to be really simple now that I have access to Earthquake. Earthquake is going to make quick work of the Vileplume, it's going to make quick work of the Victory Bell, and weirdly enough, Tangela is the only one to survive. But now, I have my Rainbow Badge. So just like in my solo Arcanine run where Dig ended up being extremely overpowered, Earthquake is just the same. Because it's the same type, it's going to do even more damage and I don't have to wait for the 2 turns. So I'm able to one-shot all of these Pokemon with the Stab, Earthquake coming out of Graveler, and this makes 2 gym leaders with very little effort. Now that I have 5 gym badges, I am going to go into Silph and defeat my rival one more time before we get to the end of the game. And here, I thought I was going to be able to knock out his Pidgeot, but Pidgeot's really strong at this point, and even 2 rock throws isn't enough to do it. I do end up knocking it out without taking a single sand attack, and even with access to the Growlithe, it's not going to matter. For some reason, I thought I had Earthquake on my Rhydon, but I don't. But I still stomp my way through with no issue. Execute here, same deal. It's not going to be able to really do much to me because Rhyhorn is actually a tank. I really hate its Sprite, though, in Generation 1, I'm going to be honest with you. Alakazam is really the only thing that I have to worry about here, but switching over to my Golem now and then using Earthquake, and I make quick work of his last 2 Pokemon. Boomy finally, nah, not yet, but Boomy is going to earn his name through the use of Explosion. I get lucky there with the paralysis. I feel like I should have knocked out his Blastoise there, but I think I may have low rolled, and so I didn't end up knocking out the Blastoise. I do pick up Lapras because I do need a Pokemon to learn Surf so that I can get to Cinnabar Island. And I'm going to heal up right before taking down Giovanni. Now, if you're like me and can never remember which floor this is on the 9th floor. So if you're ever trying to do this run and you're trying to remember so you can just take the elevator instead of the warp panels, the Healing Lady is on the 9th floor. We have 1 more rocket to defeat before we can get to Giovanni. And now that I have access to Strength, Rocky's going to make pretty good work of Pokemon. He does still have decent attack at this point, but he just really isn't effective in the late game. We're able to knock out 2 of his Pokemon easy peasy, get some extra XP on those. And here I'm going to show you how Toxic and Toxic and Bind works. So Toxic does gradually more damage each turn. The Wrap stops him from doing anything, and it does all the work for me in wiping out the Pokemon without me having to worry about any damage, especially against Marowak, who's super effective against my Pokemon. That's what I was worried about, so I wanted to land the Toxic and make sure, even if he were to knock out my Onix and I wasn't able to get the binds off consistently, that I'd be able to defeat him. We're going to use Rock Throw here because for some reason I thought it was going to be effective. It's Ground type, not Rock. That is super effective against Poison, but my stupid brain forgets every single time. With Kangaskhan here, we're going to do the Toxic and Bind, not Wrap. I keep saying Wrap. Toxic and Wrap move. And yeah, there's literally nothing that it can do here. It gets a few attacks off, but it's not very effective. And I just bind my way through. Now with the Rhyhorn, I know that I'm not going to be able to do a ton of damage to it, and the Toxic and Bind thing is getting boring, so we just switch to the one-shot stab Earthquake. And the same deal with Nidoqueen, to be honest, because... no. I forgot. I wanted to do Toxic, but I tried it twice before remembering, oh yeah, Poison types aren't affected by poison. You can't do that. So now we go back and we do Stab Earthquake and one-shotter, which is what I should have done in the first place, I'm being honest with you. But now I've defeated Giovanni, defeated Sylph, and now it's time for me to go ahead and take on Sabrina. Other than Misty, Sabrina really is the only Pokemon gym leader that I have to really worry about. The reason for that being is that her Pokemon attack with Special, and my Pokemon don't have high Special, obviously, as I get completely one-shot with my Onix. Now, Boomy is able to hold down the fort and is able to outspeed a number of her Pokemon, but once we get to Kadabra and Alakazam, I'm out of luck. Now, this is where Rock Slide comes in clutch here. Rock Slide eventually comes in clutch here after this stupid paralysis, but I'm able to one-shot her Venomoth as well. Now, here is where Boomy finally earns the name. Boomy uses Explosion and one-shots the Alakazam. Explosion is just such a ridiculous move. I don't even care about getting the XP, to be honest. I just want to clear the gym. And I don't think any other Pokemon had a chance to clear Sabrina unless I used Explosion there. That's going to be a really helpful move for me to take out that one Pokemon that just I don't have an answer for on anyone's team, quite frankly. We've now locked down 6 of the 8 total badges that we need, and now we can finally go to Cinnabar Island and talk to the scientists. Fun fact, these are the wrong scientists. I need to go to the last room, but I can pick up a TM there. I go to the last room, I talk to this guy. Nope, not that guy. I talk to this guy, and he's able to resurrect the fossils. So now I'm going to get access to my final two Pokemon, being Kabuto, eventually Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. So now the easy way to do this, he says you have to wait, you have to go for a walk. So just fly, and then fly right back. When you do that, you're able to go to the island and pick up the Pokemon right away. And this is going to give me access to those final two that are going to be key to making my run through the last two gym leaders and the Elite Four and Champion. Now that my team is effectively assembled, I'm able to give them the attacks that I want them to have. And for this instance, Kabutops, the big thing for him is going to be obviously Absorb against the Fire types, Surf against the Fire types. Luckily, I don't take any damage there. But this is going to allow me to sweep through Blaine pretty easily. Even though my Kabutops is only level 42, it doesn't really matter. Yes, his Rapidash gets off the Fire Spin, which is obnoxious because just like Wrap or Bind, it keeps me locked in, and he is faster than me. Eventually, he goes for the Tail Whip, and I'm able to double Surf and take him out. Now with the Arcanine, level 47, doesn't matter. I still outspeed. So Kabutops, despite being a rock type, its added speed allows me to get a special effective move against Pokemon that I typically wouldn't be able to outspeed with some of my other Pokemon in this team. Last and absolutely least, we have our third fight against Giovanni, this time as he reveals himself to be the 8th gym leader. And here we're going to run into more of the same, right? Slashy is just ridiculously fast, ridiculously overpowered. And I'm going to be able to use Surf to wipe out his Pokemon. Now, Dugtrio does outspeed, but when I swap over to my Aerodactyl, he can't hit me with Dig. So I set up my badge boost, and I'm able to use Fly to one-shot his Dugtrio. Now that I still have badge boost, I don't want to waste it, so I want to try and kill his Pokemon as much as possible before swapping out. We're able to... Oh, I thought I was going to be able to two-shot there and be sneaky. But with 3 shots, I'm able to take out his Nidoking. We switch back over to Slashy. We hit a Surf. Rhydon is one shot. And the Giovanni fight is over. I have all 8 badges. Before I can take on Victory Road, the Elite Four, and the Champion, I first have to battle my rival one last time. Or, well, I guess second to last time. But now with Slashy, I'm able to even outspeed his Pidgeot. And yes, it does use agility there. Oh, I thought with a crit I was going to take him out. But with 3 shots without taking any amount of damage from Pidgeot, I'm able to surf through his Rhyhorn without any issue. I'm going to be able to surf right through his Growlithe without any issue. I'm going to be able to... maybe I'll switch things up. Because now I can just use my Flying type against his Execute. I can set up a Fly. Ooh, I thought I would one-shot there, but I guess not. So Fly and Wing Attack is enough to take him out. Alakazam is the big concern on his team, but hey, the rock goes boom. So I'm able to survive a crit from his Psybeam and still one-shot him, which is highly effective. I'm going to send out my Rhyhorn before remembering that Blastoise is going to destroy me. I do throw a Stab Earthquake out there, and it just doesn't matter, right? So now I'm going to put Slashy out there, who's not going to get one-shot by a Hydro Pump. I'm going to use Absorb because I think that's going to be effective against that absolute monster of a Pokemon. I'm going to have to heal here because I can survive a Hydro Pump, but I don't want to push my luck. And I get lucky, I get the Slash that crits, and I'm able to defeat my rival, and now I'm on to the Elite Four. Now here is where I make an error that really messes up my run. So you see that my Rhydon has Horn Drill and has Fissure. Now the idea here is with the X accuracies, I'm going to be able to always land those. But what I didn't realize with that trick is that your Pokemon has to outspeed their Pokemon for it to be effective. I thought I was going to get 10 one-shots with my Rhydon, but in actuality, I don't get any. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, because I don't have access to those one-shots, I get absolutely blown up by Lapras. And this is one thing that irritates me a ton about this generation, is that even though Toxic is in effect here, and it doesn't take effect if they knock out my Pokemon. So Lapras being able to one-shot me means that I can't just use the Toxic strategy and wear her down that way. After an absolutely absurd number of unsuccessful attempts, I finally decide to make a change, go in, bring my Pokemon up to level 55, and hope that with the increased attack and the increased speed that I'm able to get through the Pokemon. Now I am able to 3-shot the Dugong after the rest, and it comes down basically to Cloyster. If Cloyster gets off a really successful clamp, which he doesn't, then I would have been in trouble there. So I still have Slashy at pretty high health. Slowbro goes for the withdraws, but 3 crits on Slash. No luck for him. Now I know that Earthquake is enough if I'm able to survive. And I do survive the Ice Punch. I drop Jinx with a one-shot, and now Boomy gets to go Boomy. And I know at this point that I've won, right? I'm able to outspeed the Lapras and one-shot with Explosion. And from this point on, everything's going to be pretty simple in my run. Bruno's going to bring out a number of Pokemon that I have super effective moves against. I'm able to use Surf to wipe out his Onix in one shot. His Hitmonchan, it gets a little tricky here. And for some reason I thought Ice Beam was going to be effective against fighting. I don't really know why that was my thought, but we're talking like 1:30 a.m. So my brain wasn't working on full capacity here. After what should have been 4 hours of recording total to beat this game turned into 8 hours because of stupid Lorelei and Misty, which was just miserable. Anyway, I'm able to make my way through his Pokemon pretty simply, and then use Crunch to take out his Machamp, who really isn't much of a champ at all. While I was raised to respect the elderly, I have absolutely no respect for this Gengar. I'm going to throw Slashy out there and hit him with Surf. Now, Nightshade is annoying because it is going to do 56 damage each time. There's really nothing I can do about it. She switches into Golbat. I freeze Golbat solid with my Ice Beam, but I want to save the last few because I want to be able to use them for Lance. So I don't go for Ice Beam again. I go for the Slash, and I get the 2-hit KO. I take out her Gengar there before Gengar can use another Nightshade. I almost kill the Haunter with a single Surf. It does take 2. I do eat another Nightshade, so be it. Arbok comes out, but Arbok is going to be weak to Stab Earthquake from Fissure. And boom, there goes the Arbok. Gengar is going to come out again, and I'm going to use Earthquake because in Gen 1 he doesn't have access to Levitate, so he's still able to take damage. And Stab Earthquake from Rhydon does a ton of damage. And the elderly have been defeated once again. Now the only real concern that I have for Lance here is his Gyarados. Now Ice Beam isn't going to be super effective, so I have to hope that I'm able to clear Gyarados quickly, and I do. So I'm able to 2-shot the Gyarados, and now I'm into the fun part, right? Ice Beam into his Dragonair doesn't quite one-shot. Dragon Rage only does 40 damage, so I don't have to worry about that. So if I can get through the bulk of his team here with just my Kabutops, then I'm in good shape. It's going to send in the Aerodactyl, but do I have a surprise for Aerodactyl? I'm going to switch over to Rocky because he's absolutely useless. I'm going to heal up my Kabutops to deal with the Dragonite, or Dragonite later. I'm going to hit Aerodactyl with the Poison, which is the only thing that Onix contributes to this entire run. Then I'm going to sit here and use Rock Slide because it's going to be super effective against the Flying type. And it's going to knock out the Aerodactyl. So even with the Supersonic and the Confusion, there's nothing that he can do. I realized too I don't need to switch back to Kabutops. I can just use Rock Slide on Dragonite. And I'm able to 2-shot his Dragonite. That was easy. Again, the hardest part of my runs, always in Generation 1, is Lorelei. She is a menace to society, and Ice seriously needs a rework. Now we're on to our final battle of the run here, and it's going to be against my rival again. I still have some Ice Beams left because I didn't end up needing to use them. I get unlucky here. Mirror Move ends up copying my Ice Beam, which then freezes me. It goes to the Mirror Move again, but since I didn't attack, it doesn't do anything. Alakazam is my big concern. So we're going to do what we do best, which is Explode. There goes his Alakazam, and now I don't need to worry about it. We still have to deal with the Blastoise, but for now, his team looks pretty straightforward. Rhydon, easy enough with a Surf. It glitched there, which I thought was a little bit weird, but that was a one-shot, I promise you. I didn't do any weird editing there. Arcanine doesn't quite get one-shot. The Hydro Pump would have done it. I thought he was going to use something to heal, so I went for the Hydro Pump instead. Should have just done that from the start, to be honest, but here we are. Now, Executor versus Fissure. I use Earthquake here, which is not very effective. I get put to sleep. And I decide, you know what, just as a safety precaution, I use the Max Revive I had picked up earlier on Boomy, just in case I need to go boom one more time. I then swap, or I then use these opportunities, since he can't really do much, I use these opportunities to heal up my Pokemon to be ready for the Blastoise last. And while this barrage happens and does effectively nothing, and then I'm going to break out the Stomp and just let Fissure tank all of these barrages. Now that's the full restore I was expecting to get used on the Arcanine, and that's why I used the Hydro Pump there. He uses it on the Executor. I stomp my way back through again. I get lucky with the flinch, and that's that. Now this brings out Blastoise, but you know what we can do again? We can go Boomy. Now even with the Hydro, oh no, the Hydro Pump knocked me out. That's really not good. Okay, so we're going to use Fly, and wow, with a crit I did a ton of damage. Now the withdrawals are going to be a pain, so I'm not going to do any damage. I get one shot by the Hydro Pump. Slashy comes out and does what Slashy does, which is crit with Slash. That's the entire purpose of having Slashy there. And I have now become the Pokemon Master. I have defeated the gyms, the Elite Four, the champion. I am proof that Brock could very well be the champion if he was just a little bit better with his own typing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to continue with these videos. Next is going to be Misty and the Water type, and we're going to run through with just Water type Pokemon. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.